presentation.
Great, thank you. Okay, I will begin sharing my screen. Okay.
Okay, so hi everyone. Welcome to our workshop on ending period poverty and decreasing the stigma. Today we will be discussing what period poverty is, how it connects to the Sustainable Development Goals, and how we have worked to combat it in our own community and how you too can help.
Before we begin, we will share a little bit more information about ourselves, so you all have an idea of who we are and why we care so much about this issue. My name is Katherine. Like Kate and Nathaniel, I attend John Burroughs School. I'm a co-leader for our school's MUN Impact Club, as well as the Gender Equity Organization. Over my years at Burroughs, I've participated in 6 MUN conferences, and during COVID-19, I have acted as a mentor for MUN at home.
My name's Kate Smith, and I'm also leader of our school's Gender Equity Organization, and I was a presenter of the same initiative at the UN for MUN Youth Summit in April 2019.
And my name is Nathaniel Doty. I'm a leader of the JVS MUN Impact Club, a 10-time MUN participant, a 2-time MUN at Home mentor, and Kate's co-presenter at last year's UN for MUN Youth Summit.
So as we said, we are the leaders of the Gender Equity Organization, aka GEO, and the MUN Impact Club at our school. GEO is one of our school's clubs dedicated to diversity and educating our community about diversity topics relating to each club. In our case, that's gender equity. GEO works to promote feminism in our community and to educate our community about prevalent gender issues, including period poverty.
The MUN Impact Club is one of our school's service clubs and works to promote awareness of and action in support of the Sustainable Development Goals. With support and inspiration from the international MUN Impact community, we host drives to help local organizations, put on events, and bring in speakers to educate our peers on the SDGs.
Today's presentation will run as follows. First, we will discuss the basic information about period poverty, the stigma surrounding it, and the Sustainable Development Goals it relates to. Then, we will dive into our menstrual products drive, how it was created and who it helps. After that, we will finish up with some tips about how you can make an impact. At the end of the presentation, there will be time to ask any questions you may have. Finally, if time allows, we will split into breakout rooms for further discussion, and so you can begin brainstorming ways you can make an impact. We hope you enjoy and learn a lot.
So before we begin, as a disclaimer, when we talk about women in this presentation, we are talking about all those who menstruate, including trans men and non-binary folk. It is important to include their stories and all the different experiences women have with menstruation to understand this issue. Without further ado, let's cover the basics.
Raise your hand in the participants box if you know what period poverty is other than the basic definition on the screen. And I'll be honest, I didn't either until I started working on this project.
Period poverty is the circumstance of being unable to afford or access necessary and vital menstrual hygiene products. To put it simply, menstrual hygiene products are expensive. Many women simply cannot prioritize menstrual products over food, childcare, and other common necessities many take for granted. Lack of access to tampons, pads, and other period products can be dangerous and humiliating, preventing women around the world from living full and healthy lives. Periods simply cannot be left unaddressed. When women do not have access to the necessary products for their periods, they often must use dirty and unsafe alternatives, like toilet paper, dish rags, newspapers, and even socks.
All women, except for those with certain medical conditions, will have their period at some point during their life. That is approximately 3.8 billion people, meaning that every community and family across the globe is affected by this issue. Approximately 2.3 billion people lack adequate sanitation worldwide, including sanitary menstrual products. Women in these areas are disproportionately affected by their period because they do not have safe or clean ways to deal with their menstruation.
In addition, about 60% of women in developing nations do not have access to menstrual products at all. Without proper supplies, women are forced to use the same tampon or pad for a long period of time or other unsafe materials. Using these unsafe materials can lead to serious, life-threatening complications. In fact, these complications constitute the 5th largest cause of death for women globally, according to India Today.
Even in more developed countries where women have access to products, they are extremely expensive. On average, it costs $18,000 for period supplies over a lifetime, an amount which could be used to buy a small car. As we have said before, this is a huge burden on women. For many, it is an extra expense they don't have the means to pay for, especially when compared to food, water, electricity, or even rent for their house.
In addition to paying extra for necessities or simply not having access to these products, all women have to deal with the stigma surrounding periods. Many societies consider menstruation a sign of weakness or impurity, making many wrongly believe that women are not fit for certain jobs or responsibilities. Now, let's take a look at a few specific examples of how period poverty and period stigma manifest themselves in the modern world.
Many governments around the world perpetuate this problem with value-added taxes, or VATs, on menstrual products. Also known as menstrual taxes or pink taxes, this type of regressive sales tax often incorrectly treats menstrual products as a luxury item. By classifying them as non-essential, there is often at least a 10% tax on such products.
In Nepal, many rural communities continue to practice chowpatty despite its outlaw in 2005. The practice mandates the seclusion of menstruating girls and women in remote mud huts or animal sheds to avoid bringing their family bad luck, making their relatives sick, or angering the gods because of their supposed impurity. For weeks, women will be confined to these huts without access to running water or nutritious food. Isolated, women are not able to properly handle their periods, often using rags to soak up the blood or having to walk many miles to the nearest stream to bathe. The practice of chowpatty forces girls and women into dangerous situations, and at least one woman or girl dies each year because of this. It also reinforces the idea that menstruation makes women polluted or toxic.
In Ethiopia, some schools have only one bathroom for all students with very little privacy, as pictured here in the Girar Jarso community. Because of this, girls often stay home from school while on their period because they don't feel comfortable. Sometimes, when girls miss large amounts of school because of their periods, they're forced to drop out. This puts them at risk of child marriage or getting pregnant at a younger age, impacting their chances to fulfill their potential.
As of 2014, 42 million women and girls live under the poverty line in the United States. It is safe to assume that that number has only grown in recent years. When women live under the poverty line or face homelessness, they do not have the means to deal with their periods in a safe and sanitary way. The US's high luxury tax only adds to this burden. Overall, 1/5 of American girls are often not able to find or purchase menstrual products. Similarly, 1/4 of female or menstruating students have missed school due to their period. And while some states have passed bills requiring schools to provide menstrual products, they provided no way of funding this endeavor, leaving schools and American girls stranded.
In Uganda, coronavirus has exacerbated already existing obstacles for women in healthcare positions. At the moment, menstrual products are difficult to obtain, leading many medical workers to call for their classification as essential personal protective equipment. With their current lack of supply, Ugandan healthcare workers are put at risk of rash and/or infection due to usage of non-sanitary methods to absorb blood flow.
All of this can be changed. It's not an easy process, but it must be done to ensure equity for every citizen of the planet. One of the first ways to combat period poverty is to reduce or even end the stigma surrounding menstruation and period products. The stigma in the United States may not be as severe as it is elsewhere in the world, but it is certainly still present and significant. Raise your hand in the participants box if you feel or have ever felt uncomfortable discussing periods, pads, or tampons.
Often, schools, communities, or organizations do not discuss periods because they are viewed as dirty and unclean. However, it is a natural biological process that should be taught to everyone, including boys and men. We must stop stigmatizing periods. Period.
While period poverty certainly affects women's health, it also has a broader impact on the community in which they live. Without proper supplies, it is nearly impossible to do anything or go anywhere. This means that girls often have to skip school and drop out altogether. This harms their chances in the future of entering university or being hired for a high-paying job. Women are forced to stop going to work during the week of their period, putting them at risk of being fired. Then they are not able to provide for themselves or for their families.
Period poverty doesn't just affect women and girls. It affects their families, their local communities, and their community's infrastructure. Period poverty and the fight against it is related to 7 of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Fighting against period poverty brings us closer to achieving these goals.
The first is Goal 1, ending poverty. Period poverty is directly related to targets 1.2, 1.5, and 1.8. Ending period poverty reduces the number of women and girls affected by dimensions of poverty, builds their resilience to social disasters, and strives to ensure significant mobilization of menstrual products from a variety of sources, which is exactly what these targets call for.
The next is Goal 3, good health and well-being. Combating period poverty supports universal access to sexual and reproductive health care services, target 3.7. It also works towards achieving universal health coverage, access to quality healthcare services, and access to safe, effective, quality, and affordable essential medicines.
Ending period poverty is directly related to supporting quality education, Goal 4. With greater access to menstrual products and less stigma surrounding the issue, girls will feel more comfortable attending school while on their period. It works toward target 4.5. Eliminating gender disparities in education and ensuring equal access of all levels of education for the vulnerable. It also works toward target 4.A, building and upgrading education facilities that are child, disability, and gender sensitive, and provide safe, nonviolent, including, and effective learning environments for all.
Next is Goal 5, gender equality. This one is pretty simple. Ending period poverty eliminates a form of artificial discrimination against women, which is called for in target 5.1, and it also ensures universal access to sexual and reproductive health care and rights, as called for by target 5.6. Goal 6 for clean water and sanitation is also a critical element of addressing period poverty. By achieving target 6.1 to achieve safe drinking water for all, we prevent exacerbating the adverse health effects of period poverty on women. And by achieving target 6.2, 6A, and 6B, which together promote access to sanitation for all people, we ensure that women have the sanitary environment necessary to safely address their periods.
Period poverty affects decent work and economic growth, Goal 8. When women are not able to work while on their period, it affects not only their own economic status, but also the economic growth of their community. Therefore, ending period poverty promotes achieving full and productive employment and decent work for all women and men, and equal pay for work of equal value, as well as protects their labor rights and promotes safe and secure working environments for all workers, including migrant workers, particularly female migrants, and those in precarious employment, targets 8.5 and 8.8.
Finally, period poverty is related to Goal 10, reduced inequalities. This goal works to end inequalities in political and economic organizations. Therefore, by helping women feel comfortable and able to be more active in these areas, combating period poverty promotes empowering and promoting the social, economic, and political inclusion of all, irrespective of age, sex, disability, race, ethnicity, origin, religion, or economic or other status, which is target 10.2. It also ensures equal opportunity, 10.3.
We know that was a lot of information all at once, but all of this is to say the future of women is and always will be linked to the future of humanity. Therefore, as long as period poverty or any other form of gender-based discrimination is present, artificial or otherwise, it is our responsibility to work to end it.
But there is definitely hope. There have already been enormous strides made by governments and organizations around the world. In December of 2019, Rwanda removed their VAT on menstrual products after the government saw an increase in school absences and dropouts among women as 18% could not afford products. India eliminated its 12% tax on menstrual products after lobbying by advocacy groups. Germany reduced its 18% tax to a 7% tax in early 2020. Additionally, this map shows nations where there is no VAT on menstrual products.
In the US, the organization Period has served over 1 million periods, with distribution centers in all 50 states and 40 countries. Dignity Period is an organization in Ethiopia working to educate girls about their periods, break the stigma that surrounds menstruation, and provide menstrual products to girls in the community. They aim to prevent girls from dropping out of school due to their periods.
In India, the PAD project, made famous by the Oscar-winning film Period End of Sentence, and the PAD Man, which was made famous by a film of the same name, provide empowering jobs to women making sustainable period products and work to keep young girls in school with these products.
UNICEF has also been a key player in menstrual hygiene education and provision. In March 2019, they wrote a full report detailing the issue and how to combat it, which includes 4 pillars of intervention: social support, knowledge and skills, facilities and services, and materials. This is an important framework for the eradication of period poverty.
In our very own community at Burroughs, we work to combat period poverty. Last year, we produced a petition demanding adequate menstrual supplies in all restrooms, providing relief for people who menstruate at our school. The other pillar of our work is, of course, our own menstrual products drive.
We are here to share our experience to help you start to work with us to end period poverty. For the next few slides, please look to the MUN Impact Planning tool found at the link in the chat.
While you do not have a copy of what we have written verbatim, we hope that by following along, you'll understand how to use this guide for your own MUN Impact projects. This can and should be used for MUN Impact projects of all kinds, not just period poverty, but it would be cool if you use it for period poverty too. We're going to use this tool to go through our own menstrual products drive. So look out for these 3 things.
In the Get Inspired Phase 1 portion of the MUN Impact Planning tool, use the SDGs to narrow down your interest and targets. This phase really helps slow down the process and aids in creating a SMART goal. A SMART goal is one that is specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based. Picking your indicator supports a measurable goal, while picking your target establishes a specific goal.
Since we've already talked a lot about the SDGs and the targets that apply to this issue, we would like to direct your attention to the indicators section. While indicators may not always seem directly applicable to a smaller community-based project, they still provide a good framework for what the end goal should be. By seeking to get our school administration on board with our mission, we pursue indicator 5.1.1. By encouraging education and awareness of menstrual hygiene in our community, we pursue indicators 5.6.1. And by providing resources for menstrual hygiene, an element of sexual and reproductive health care, we pursue indicator 5.6.2. When we break out for discussions, we encourage you to think about the SDGs that interest you and to look at their targets and indicators. Hopefully, some idea of action will begin to take place in your brain.
So to dive in to this issue and figure out how to address it, we had to research how it affected those close to home in our community. Period poverty is a huge issue in our home of St. Louis, especially because such a large number of St. Louisans live under the poverty line. 2/3 of low-income women surveyed by the St. Louis Alliance for Period Supplies said that they could not afford proper menstrual hygiene products. And of that 2/3, 21% of them said they could not afford products monthly, and 46% said they often had to choose between buying menstrual products and buying food.
These are obviously incredibly concerning statistics. These circumstances influence life for many people and disproportionately affect women and girls with special needs or who are differently abled. And in addition, those who are affected by conflict and natural disasters.
With these statistics in mind, past leaders of GEO created the Menstrual Products Drive, colloquially known as the Tampon Drive, in 2016 to make their impact. Current leaders of GEO carry out this drive annually, with the exception of this past year due to COVID-19. In 2019, our drive lasted for about 4 weeks, ending at the beginning of our spring break vacation. The main purpose of this drive is to expose the borough's community to the issue of period poverty, as well as provide for its remedy through action. The drive is also meant to normalize talking about periods in public through an educational setting. While these are our broad goals, we will dive into our specific aims in the next slide.
Our overarching goals for our drive in the past and for the future have been these. First, to increase awareness and decrease the stigma. Nothing is going to change without people being aware of the issue and feeling comfortable discussing it. It is the first step on the journey of ending period poverty.
Our second goal is to advocate for women and girls whose periods prevent them from reaching their full potential. Part of understanding the issue is understanding that everyone is affected by a lack of access to menstrual products. Girls are often not able to go to school, women are not often able to go to work. This limits the economic potential of every community.
Our third goal is to provide menstrual products to all women and girls affected by period poverty. This goes to the heart of why we organized our drive. While it is only a temporary solution, it helps hundreds of women in our community. Women and girls need period supplies, and we had the means to donate them. With continued efforts and international cooperation, we can help ensure menstrual products for all women and girls across the globe. This brings us to our next goal.
Lastly, we work to search for long-term sustainable solutions, including sustainable menstrual products. While it is currently not feasible to send women across the globe sustainable menstrual products, that will continue to be our goal. In order to keep our planet healthy and safe, we always need to be thinking about sustainability, and solutions to period poverty are no different.
To achieve these goals, we first had to spread awareness and educate the borough's community on the issue of period poverty. Through continuous announcements about the drive during our morning assemblies and flyers put up around the school encouraging donation and having extra information, we achieved this mission.
To further educate our non-menstruating classmates and to spread additional awareness, we hosted outings for members of the male members of our community to go out to the store and buy menstrual products.
This one is Super Plus. Oh, this one's regular. What is this?
Super tampon is not a pad.
No, it's all right.
What is the difference between a tampon and a pad?
Okay, a pad we are on the outside.
Okay, and then
When you have your period.
Okay.
A tampon insert
Okay.
into the
Yes.
vagina or whatever.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
How does it feel to be buying tampons as a guy?
Uncomfortable.
Are the Super Plus like higher quality?
No, it's absorbency rate. Well, it's
What?
like
Oh wait, question. Right here, when it says like grams, what does that mean?
the amount of blood it'll absorb.
Okay.
I wonder if there's a structural difference between the pearl and the radiant, or if they just like making the different colored boxes. Yeah, why would you need a resealable wrapper?
Why do you think tampons are so expensive?
Well, because this is an elastic good and it's a need, not a want, and the prices fluctuate because people know that they're going to buy them.
Do you guys think the tampon should be free?
It's a necessity for all women, and it just shouldn't have a price tag. Like, it's a necessity.
Yeah, so while it's pretty funny to see their reactions to buying tampons, it also served a more important purpose. It showed that many men know very little about periods, and they were especially surprised by their price. It was also a way to erase some of the discomfort people can feel when buying period products.
While awareness is very important, we also wanted to make sure the borough's community was taking an active role in combating the issue. Throughout the years, we've partnered with local organizations such as the Women's Safe House, Safe Connections, and the St. Louis Alliance for Period Supplies. We most recently supported the Women's Safe House, a shelter for victims of domestic abuse. After a month of collection, we sent all of our donated products there.
During 2019's drive, we collected about 5,000 menstrual products, an amount the organization said would last them for at least a year. We then took our project to Qatar in January, where it won second place at the Global Act with Impact Awards, and then to New York City, where it was presented at the United Nations as part of the UN for MUNU Summit.
So now that you have learned about our initiative, it is time to look at what you can do, ranging from simple discussions to full-on activism.
The first step, as we have mentioned, is awareness. We cannot stress this enough. It is extremely important. According to a study by Rutgers University, only about 13% of girls in India are aware of menstruation before their first period, and 75% do not know what materials to use to absorb the flow of their periods. In order for substantial change to occur, there must be alterations to the conversation around periods in schools, in families, and in communities as a whole. Posting information on social media, putting up posters with valuable information, and talking to friends and family about menstruation, even if it might be uncomfortable, are good ways to spread awareness and start the conversation of change.
Even after awareness is spread, a societal stigma around periods and menstruation will still likely exist. In many parts of the world, women are seen as unclean and impure while on their periods, sometimes resulting in dangerous situations for them. Additionally, in other parts of the world where danger is not as prevalent, embarrassment and humiliation certainly are. Boys and men are also typically excluded from conversations surrounding menstruation, creating a culture of ignorance about women's bodily functions, which results in a conclusion of dirtiness, which is then perpetuated by society. Do you see the trend? Everyone must be educated about menstruation, whether they menstruate or not. Whether that's mandatory education in schools or talking to your peers one-on-one, it's essential for us to begin talking about and dismantling period stigma.
The last step to creating change is more concrete action. Here is a non-exhaustive list of examples. First is donation. Gather menstrual supplies in your own community, as we did with our tampon drive, and send them to a local or international organization for distribution. Ways to make it fun include videos and competitions. Then activism. Your voice can be extremely powerful. Again, spreading awareness about this issue, or any issue for that matter, is impactful in itself. Speak to school officials, write or call your elected officials, and most importantly, vote. Voting is one of the simplest and most effective ways to create change. Lastly, service in your community is important and directly impactful. Volunteer in a local organization that supports people affected by period poverty. Doing these things will advance the goal of totally eliminating period poverty and fulfilling the Sustainable Development Goals.
So, if you take anything away from this presentation, we'd like it to be these three things. First, period poverty is a legitimate issue that does not only affect people who menstruate, but their entire community. Period poverty is a health, human rights, economic, and social justice issue.
Second, spreading awareness is key. It is the first step to entirely eliminating the stigma surrounding menstruation and then period poverty as a whole. Educating your community about menstruation and its surrounding issues is vital.
Lastly, you can make an impact. Tackling this issue may seem daunting, but the only way to begin to eliminate it is if people begin to chip away at it by enacting change locally. Use your local and global MUN connections to help.
Thank you all so much for attending our presentation. We hope that you have learned a lot and are inspired to take action towards ending period poverty. We will now move into a period for question and answer, and then, if time allows, we will split into breakout rooms for further discussion. If you have any questions after this program is over, please feel free to reach out to any one of us, as we are always happy to share information about this issue or our drive. Also, please look up our organizations on social media at JBS MUN Impact and at jbs.go to follow along with our future campaigns. Thank you all again for coming. We hope that you enjoyed it. Now, if anyone has any questions, please send them in the chat and we will get to as many as we can.
Thank you all for that wonderful presentation and that insightful information session. About the Q&A session, would you like to personally pick questions from the chat, or would you like the admin to moderate it?
We'll have like the admins moderate it. That's fine.
All right, sure. Okay, so everyone, if you have a question that you did not, that wasn't addressed in the presentation and you'd like to ask for our presenters, please send them into the chat right now.
I see some questions in the chat already from before. I could read out the first one if you want.
Go ahead.
So, I don't know if I'm saying your name right, so I'm sorry if I'm saying it wrong, but Archana from India is asking, how do you believe we can sensitize the urge the governments around the world to stop levying taxes on sanitary products?
I think the first part is writing letters, talking to them, making your voice heard. Eventually, you're going to be voting on whether or not they get to stay in office. And so if you cause a ruckus, make good trouble, as John Lewis said, they'll listen to you because they want to get elected again. So it's in their interest to listen to the people. So making sure that they know that the people that are voting for them care about this issue is the best way.
Thank you. I believe we have another question in the chat.
So let me take a look. Someone asked if you have any suggestions on how to get your school on board with a project similar to this. This was asked by Surwa from Canada.
Again, what's really important is like starting a conversation like within the school. We have like an assembly every morning where we can like make announcements and stuff. But if you have a similar thing, if you have like just morning announcements or like a school newspaper or something, it would be really valuable to write something or make an announcement regarding period poverty that's just educational, and to begin the conversation about it and to start the dismantling of the stigma surrounding it.
Thank you. We have a question from Tara that says, did you have any trouble initiating this project?
So our three presenters today did not actually initiate this project. It was past leaders of GEO who created it in 2016, but our school is a very open community, which is really nice. And so they were easily able to start this drive, and they realized after another drive, which was more of a clothing drive, had occurred, that people were not focusing on period products. And so they wanted to create this drive and talk to some of the administration, and everyone was really supportive about it. So it was pretty simple for us to start this drive. But of course, if you guys have any trouble or need any advice, please reach out to us, because we know that that is not a shared experience everywhere.
That being said, there is still perpetual discomfort when discussing this kind of thing. Like when you go up and make an announcement, there's still like shifting the seats a little bit, and it's still a little bit to talk about. So from that front, from a social front, it is like a little difficult, but like once you overcome that, it was fine for us.
Thank you. I believe Sarah will read out the next question.
Yep. So Natasha asks, what is a good place to start? Something like asking for free products in the bathroom.
So that would be a great place to start with taking action in your own community. It's a very localized way to make an impact, and it'll help so many people. And also another easy way, as we mentioned, is just beginning to talk about it with your family and friends. That way more people can learn about this issue and become invested in it.
And in terms of actually making that happen and getting your school to listen to you, petitions are a great way. Schools are generally very responsive to things like petitions. If they see that a majority of the student body is behind your cause, it can be really helpful.
Okay, thank you. I believe our next question is from Emmanuel. He says, or she says, how can we raise awareness and importance in countries really male chauvinist, such as the Latin American ones?
From a male perspective, you just got, it's just something that you got to talk about it. There's always an initial discomfort. There's always an initial bump that you have to get over. But once you start talking about it, particularly with your male peers, then they'll start to warm up to the idea of the drive. Also, getting as many female peers on board as possible can help influence males, because they'll start to say, hey, well, if half the class is already on board with this, why am I not on board with this? So I had a lot of friends that are girls. I have a lot of friends in general that care about this issue. So they care about it. Why don't I care about it?
Well said. Our next question comes from Serwa. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. They say, what was the impact your drive had on your school community? For example, how did the males react after the buying experience? I think that also links to what Nathaniel just said.
Yeah, so the video in itself definitely like bolstered support, and it made people go and donate more to it, which was great. And like there was just a more general, like a general sense of comfort discussing it. Like obviously you don't just go up to someone in the hallway and be like periods, but like when the topic came up, like it was usually met with less resistance than you might expect. And so yeah, that having people go and buy, like having guys go and buy tampons and having people see that, I think it really made an impact.
Thank you for that answer. Our next question comes in from Charlotte, and she asks, are people surprised or confused when you as a male are at the forefront of the cause?
At this point, it's more of a punchline for jokes like I was confused about period poverty before I started getting into this. But really in the school community, we're a very open community in this regard. And I'm not really at the forefront. It's a team effort with many people involved, and we're here as a community to work together on this issue. So it's guys, girls, all working together to make a difference.
Thank you for that really well said answer. So we're going to go on to the last question now, and it comes from Shannon. And they ask, how did you recruit people to be in the video? Did you just reach out to your friends or what?
Yeah, so we just kind of put out feelers, like, does anyone want to be in this video? And we had, so we had a team go to Thyman that year, and one of the other leaders who was involved in the project reached out and asked them to be in it. And yeah, it was basically just our friends. So it was
and there's also an element of peer pressure to it. These were people that had friend groups and had connections. So if they were doing it, then they'd get their friends in. So there's a little bit of strategy behind it.
All right, thank you so much for your answers and for your wonderful presentation. I believe we have at least 5 minutes to entertain for breakouts. Mr. Newman, would you please open the breakouts for the presenters?
We got about a minute.
Sure, I guess we would just like to say one final thank you to everyone for coming. And again, we really hope that we have inspired you to take some sort of action, whether it's with period poverty or not. Just make an impact in your community and it'll help everywhere.
Do you want to share in the chat real quickly your emails? I know a lot of people in these chats want to get in touch with you. Thank you all so much for an incredible presentation. Yes, Renad?
I was just gonna say, if everyone is comfortable with doing so, feel free to open your cameras, and if Mr. Newman would like to take a shot of all of us.
That'd be wonderful. Thank you. Well, as our teachers, I don't know how many times I've seen this presentation and seen this video, and I will never tire of it. I just can't applaud you enough for the courage to share this information that makes some people uncomfortable, but is so important for all of us to hear. So thank you for making us more aware of these issues and for sharing your initiative globally, which I think is just fabulous. Very proud of you. Okay, big smiles, everyone. Lovely. 3, 2, and 1. Fabulous. Thank you all so much. And remember to visit the site to donate and to raise awareness for the SDGs and MUN impact and send in the information to us. We'd appreciate it. And with that, I must close out this session. Thank you to my admin team for being such great leaders. One more session to go before we close out this global summit. Thank you all so much. Have a great
Thank you.
morning, evening, afternoon. Bye-bye.
You too.
Thank you all.